Life's a gamble, I roll dice. Bet against me, I roll twice. I done beat the odds my whole life. I said I'm ready for greatness.
Shit, Dave.
Welcome back to Autonomous Podcast. I am your host, Damian Jackson, and my assistant, AI. You'll catch on. So on today's episode, we're going to talk about labor unions and are they the solution? Yes, we have a labor union strike going on right now in the ports. I think it's ILA, something like that. And I think it's 60% of the ports in the United States of America. So pretty much going from the East Coast all the way down to the southern coast of Florida, so Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, interesting enough. I think places like that. Baltimore, I heard that brings in... Baltimore is a huge port for cars, and I think Delaware or Maine, something like that, is big on bananas. So let's talk about that real quick before we kind of continue on and ask about, are labor unions a solution? So sticking to the port strike real quick, they're striking because, well, money, right? They want more money. They want better conditions or certain work conditions, things like that. Fine and dandy, right? We can all agree on those things. How much is enough? We can all dispute that as well. The thing is, with the port strike, you're trying to go up against a battle in which you're fighting AI, automation, robotics, things in which at some point a lot of those workers will be replaced. We know that. There's nothing wrong with that. Although we want to fight evolution, change is the only thing that's constant and will always happen. So when you're in a job market, you have to comprehend and realize that, yeah, you might want to do the same job for 20 years, but it does not mean that for the next 20 years that job will exist in the particular manner in which you're used to it existing. So if you're a dot worker, a blue collar worker, and white collar jobs, you see the rise of automation, of AI, which I think right now is ANI, artificial narrative or narrow intelligence, and then we're going to artificial general intelligence, AGI. I've been trying to do more research on AI a lot lately. I've been incorporating with my content creation, my editing, my music production, things like that, marketing strategies. I've been asking ChatGPT a lot of fucking questions, and we got a little chat history going on in which it's responding back to me. That's interesting in its own self right there. So we see the advancement of how this technology is moving forward. You have to ask yourself, will your job be here within the next few years, within the next 5? Really, to be honest, so everyone should have a 5 to 10 year plan anyways. So if you're a dock worker or someone or anybody in a career field in which your job may be replaced by robotics, automation, AI moving forward, do you go ahead and get ahead of the curve or ahead of the trend and take up a new skill, evolve with the market? Or do you try to fight and put up a resistance, be like, no, we want this, we want that? Because from a business standpoint, from a corporation standpoint, of course they're going to choose the fucking robots. You would too, right? Why would I not choose automation and robotics if I don't have to listen to, hey, I want more money. Oh, we want these bathroom breaks. We want more for overtime pay. Nobody want to hear that shit, right? I'm just going to be honest with you. Nobody want to hear that shit. Now, does it make it inhumane or unfair? We can kind of go back and forth on that, but the reality of the situation is, if the corporation, because that's what we're talking about, the corporation is dictating certain things and putting up the money and things like that, well, then what are they going to do? They're going to find ways to cut costs. So eventually they'll probably start with a balance or a slow integration of the automation, which I seen some videos that's pretty much what's going on right now. And you have to ask yourself, with this union strike or with the port strike from this union, Now let me make sure it's ILA. I'm pretty sure it's ILA. Uh, let's see if I can find it real quick. I'm on Vox. It just popped up. I'm pretty sure it's ILA. Okay. So I switched over to the other screen and let me change this over. Why is it? You know what? I thought I fixed it. Anyways, so I'm pretty sure it's ILA. Yeah, here we go. The International Longshore Men's Association. So with the ILA going through this strike and closing the ports and things like that, you have to ask yourself, do you think it will actually get the result in which they want? Maybe temporarily, but really the corporations, the ports, they're going to find a way to speed up what they were already going to do. They might have already had like a 10-year plan, but say the ILA negotiates a new contract for the next five, I think they want the next 5 or 6 years, X amount of percent increase in wages. Well, guess what? The corporations, things like that, they're going to take that time frame to map out a strategy of their own to replace some of those workers. I mean, if from a business standpoint, from a corporation standpoint, if I'm on that side, if I'm in that legal team, things like that, I'm trying to find a way to cut these people out, and I will only keep the people that aren't part of the union. I would try to find some way to navigate all that legally. But even if you had to take a couple lawsuits, well, cost of doing business, you might as well write the check and go on about your day. Now, does that sound fair? Does that sound humane? There's no ethics in business. I don't know why people think that. Although I think they have a business ethics class in college or some college curriculums. But there's no ethics in business. They're only trying to make money. They don't care about nothing else. So moving forward, you have to ask yourself, do you resist and fight, or do you just evolve with the market? Do you pick up a new skill? Do you go to school and learn how to work with the automation? Because somebody got to fix the robots, right? Somebody got to fix the machines. You're still going to have some type of human presence there. Now, will the numbers be greatly reduced? Of course. But does that not mean you don't have a fucking job? All right, now we kind of got that out the way a little bit. We have to ask ourselves, are unions the solution? Here on Autonomous Podcast, autonomy is the goal. An autonomous society where individuals make their own decisions. It's not to say that people can't come together as a collective and do certain things, but we're going to continue to focus on the individual in an autonomous society where I treat you the way I want to be treated. Now, obviously, we have to change a lot of things mentally, spiritually, psychologically, emotionally. Yes. But that can happen. Anyways, so when you have these unions, my biggest issue is what if me or you, the individual, is a part of these unions? So we're going to kind of touch on the cons first. So if we're a part of these unions and we don't actually agree or don't vote to go on strike because we think we're good, right? You're good, I'm good. I got enough money. I got more enough money. I took some extra money that I've been saving, and I actually, instead of saving it in an IRA and shit like that, I actually invested it in crypto, in gold. Hell, I invested in stock in this corporation, in this company that we work for, right? Maybe I bought some stock in, I don't know, one of those companies that are about to be mining for lithium in North Carolina where they had a hurricane at. Maybe I did something like that. Maybe I was trying to get ahead of the trend and capitalize off of natural disasters. I'm just saying. I might leave that for another episode. In fact, actually, pretty sure I know I made an episode about that on the Underdog podcast. I really need to find those episodes. Well, I know where they're at. I need to look them up and then kind of clip them and piece them together because things I said 3-4 years ago are happening again in a cycle. But I digress. So, with the whole union thing, no individuality. We're focused on a collective. I seen a video on TikTok where the guy walked in and was like, hey, if you're in the ILA, go ahead and clock out. We're on strike. And it's kind of like, whoa, what? If I clock out now, I don't get a full paycheck. And then also, it's like, okay, we're on strike. Do I continue to get my money? Do I continue to get paid? Because I'm not going to get paid from the job, from the corporation, because clearly I'm not there. So I'm not going to get paid. And then the ones that are not a part of the union, will they not be working more because we're not there too? And, to each their own, right? You're not trying to shit on them and fuck up their lives, but you got to look out for yourself. All right. So the other thing I have the issue with unions is kind of like sororities, kind of like scholastic groups at school and things like that. When you join a club, when you join a society, all these other bullshit, it's dues. Because my first question is, well, where the fuck is the money going? And then you'll be like, oh, well, it goes to here and it goes to there. So, okay, so if you're paying dues to a union, all right, now, does that mean that money is there to cover our regular, 40, 45, 50 hour a week paycheck? Now, I'm not a part of a union. Never been a part of a union. I would have been if I continued to be a mail carrier. My dad, if I'm not mistaken, should have been a part of the union. I believe he was as a mail carrier, United States Postal Carrier. A lot of people are veterans. That's part of it. So my thing is though, being in that union, I get a part of the union. This is kind of a pro. I'm a part of the union because I'm getting better working conditions and whatnot because of the collective bargaining agreement or whatever that the union has signed and stuff. But it kind of splits up the workforce because now you have people that the employees that are in the union are getting a little bit better working conditions in a sense than employees that are not in the union. But meanwhile, me as an individual, if I work hard or whatever and showcase whatever that I got going on, my production and stuff like that, and I deserve a raise, me as an individual doesn't necessarily get it. You can say, well, being part of the union, you don't have to worry about that because we'll handle negotiations. That's fine. But am I still getting paid more based on my own individual effort, right? The individual gets lost in all this. And so, like, the pros of having better working conditions and someone fighting for you, and you having a union rep and somebody looking out for it, that's great. But once again, back to the cons, Jimmy Hoffa. You don't know who Jimmy Hoffa is? We'll touch on a little bit, but make sure you do your research. A union leader of the Teamsters, I think in the 60s, 70s, alleged ties to organized crime, to the mafia, and went missing and was pronounced or declared dead, I think, in 1982. And just kind of looked over Wikipedia real quick before I started recording. So we have that as well, because when you have an organization like that and you have a small amount or minority of an organization, of a collective that's going to make decisions for the whole, now you give up the opportunity, or you create the opportunity for abuse of power. And far as autonomy goes, an autonomous podcast, creating an autonomous society, anytime you let someone or a small group of people make decisions for the many, you're giving up your own individual choice. Thus, you're giving away some of your power. And that might be okay for some, but your ability to make decisions, I tell this to my kids all the time, your ability to make decisions makes you a leader. Not necessarily because you can lead everybody, but because a lot of people don't want to make decisions, so they'll follow you. And that's what a union is. You're following a union rep. You're following the leads and basically the union president. And then once again, with all the money going into dues, if you don't know exactly where the money is going and how it's being spent, and yeah, they might write down some notes or whatever and things like that. But if you don't see a detailed tracker every month of where all the money is at and where the money is going, you're getting closer to a possible case of abuse of power. Part of the creation of unions, you can say, is pretty much the cause and effect. Did a little research and kind of into the history. I don't really remember exactly clear. I think going in 50s, 60s time frame, somewhere around there, as far as unions and whatnot, started in the creation of it, or pretty much modern unionization that we know of. So in that sense, cause and effect, you have corporations that are coming into the rise, partly 14th Amendment, allowing corporations to have some type of rights. We'll touch on that later, but we'll stick to this point right now. So corporations having rights and corporations doing what's best for the corporation to continue to run itself, essentially creating its own entity that doesn't necessarily exist, but whatever. So Amazon is its own entity, right? Its own corporation. It exists, even though there's not anybody really behind it in that sense anymore. Just a bunch of money put into it. And then the bottom line is to make more money. So you're going to need some type of pushback, like cause and effect. Something is going to balance out that energy or counteract that energy. Well, it would be from the employees. So if the top is a corporation making the money and stuff and then making all decisions, and then at the bottom here will be the employees, the workers, well, now you got this conflict in which we're trying to push back on that. So from that sense, because of the corporations, you could say that, well, you should have some type of unionization, because you're going to need someone, or you're going to need a collective power to fight back against this large entity in the corporation, even though the large entity in the corporation is not really large in that sense, because you got your board members, your CEO, your chief executive officer, and what? Investment hedge funds and stuff like that are pouring money into it. So they just have the money, right? So they control everything, because essentially every employee, every worker wants a job so they can make money. And that's where the corporation holds the power, because they're like, hey, we have the money. But it's also interesting because really, if they don't have no employees, then they are not able to produce the products in which they're going to sell. Then they're going to lose profits. Thus, they won't have no money. But then they won't have no money to give to employees. So it's, you can see it's a cycle, and there needs to be some type of synergy, of a balance and harmony, which will never happen to that perfect balance, that perfect 50-50, but you're going to struggle with your 60-40, 70-30. 80-20, you're going to kind of struggle with that. And that's reality. That's life. You can say, like I said before, the union is going to give you better working conditions, political influence. I'm looking at my notes real quick. So political influence can be the pros, because once again, the corporations, the lobbyists are going to go to the government for certain things that is beneficial to the corporate entity. But who's going to look out for the workers and employees? Well, depending on what state you're in, governor, the laws and things like that, federal laws, depending on who's in the executive branch or who's in Congress, the judicial branch. Okay, we get that. Well, now your union can kind of gain some political influence as well, because every election cycle, what are they saying? Bernie Sanders, oh, yeah, we're going to fight the union, or we're going to help the unions fight back against these corporations. Joe Biden, we're going to get together with the unions, the Teamsters stuff. We're going to fight back against Amazon. All that shit sounds good, but does anything actually change? And then when unions are lobbying together, or protesting rather, and striking as like they are doing now, and then you have the SAGA, whatever, the Skilled Actors Guild, whatever. These fucking acronyms is wild, bro. Worse than the fucking military. So yeah, you have those, as they're trying to fight against AI, automation, right? That's essentially what we're all going up against. Not all of us, some of us, but essentially that's what we're going up against. It's funny because the jobs in which has to be dealt with directly with people, they're good. Teachers, medical field, doctors, physician assistants, rather, nurses, things like that. People where you got coaches. I was watching a video last night. I wish I would remember it. I can reference this right off the top of my head. But I was watching a video last night on YouTube and was bringing up how the different career fields, you can search it yourself, in which going forward will still be there, because it's whatever has that human element. Yeah, I seen a video of people saying that like podcasters can be replaced because you can use an AI script or whatever to create a podcast. Problem is, people do want to hear a voice and hear natural talking. You can hear me pause. You can hear me think, right? You can, if I don't put on a certain filter or whatever, you can hear the saliva going around my mouth and things like that. Like you can feel that human presence that you won't get from AI. Same as music creation. Music creation, you can create music just off of math alone. But there's still a certain type of energy in which you're not going to get, but I don't want to go too much into it because we'll say that for another episode. So having the political influence, having those different things that a union can help you fight back against corporation. Maybe the actual problem and the solution is not the unions, but corporations itself having rights. Because when you look at it, as much as people have said this, capitalism does not exist. Capitalism can only exist in a free market. There is no free market. As long as there is a government, there's no free market. At least in the large capacity of a country, a nation which you're thinking of. So, since there's no free market in America because we have government influence, America is a mixed economy. So we're not a capitalist economy to that extent in which the way it will really operate in a free market. Capitalism exists in America in which you can buy stock in a company. You can buy stock in a corporation, rather. Because when a company or a business, I live in Florida, so you live in Florida, you probably shopped at Publix at one fucking point in time in your life. If you haven't, you're missing out. That's just me. So, I like Publix a lot. And even though their prices, not as bad if you buy a Publix brand. But anyways, so shopping at Publix, working at Publix. My mom has worked at Publix, my grandmother, other people. I have worked at Publix at one point in time. Other family members, friends, a lot of people. And I live in Lakeland, Florida. So, which is like the headquarters of Publix stuff. I think the first grocery store was on George Jenkins Boulevard. George Jenkins, founder. Yeah, quick little history, whatever. So Publix gives a lot of people jobs in this area. Publix is still a private company, which means that the original owner is the family of the original owner is still in charge of that company, that business. Now they go private, and they're being private, but if they go public, well, guess what? Now the outside influence, the I say outside interference, but the outside influence, the outside money, now they can pour money into it and stuff and put buy stock up and everything like that. Now they have capital in the company. But when it's a private company, you can have capital in the private company as an employee. And when you work at Publix for X amount of years, you can attain stock in the company. Publics will set you up. You can work in the grocery store. You can work in a production plant, things like that, doing manual labor, and they will send you to school, and they'll help you advance. They'll give you education and skill and things like that because they want you to be in the company and elevate and work your way up. You can do that and obtain stock because I tried for years and try to look and find things, stuff like that. If I can get stock in Publix, you can't. You have to be an employee. That's capitalism because the employee has capital in the company. What we are actually seeing is corporations, these fake entities, given legal rights and able to exist as their own legal entity. Some of y'all don't know the straw man theory, but a quick kind of synopsis. You have you, the natural person, and then you have you, the legal person. You, the natural person, spells your name, capital D, A-M-I-N-I, whatever, capital J, A-C-K, so Damian Jackson. But then me, the legal person, spells my name in all capital letters. Look at your driver's license, look at the bills in which you actually owe money on, your rent. Rent is anyways, you can get out of some things stuff if you understand the straw man theory. And yeah, they'll say, oh, that's not true and stuff like that. I've done it. I've done it for over a decade. It works. It works. Anyways, so when we talk about corporations and stuff like that, they really shouldn't exist because in a real capitalistic country or capitalist society, in a free market, they wouldn't exist because why would I open up my business up to other people to bring in money if no matter what happens, I'm liable for it, right? You get mad at Jeff Bezos because he started Amazon, but once the company went public, became that corporation, he don't have to worry about shit because now the corporation gets lawsuits, not the individual. So they remove the individual responsibility, remove the individual being accountable, and now who's accountable? This legal entity, this corporation that you can't talk face to face to. You can't talk face to face with. So unions are not necessarily the solution because obviously they're not the problem, but the problem is deeper because the solution is right there. It's the legalization of corporations or corporations having legal rights, which they should not. A corporation should not have any rights because that business, whoever started that business, whoever are the employees of that business, they should be held accountable and held responsible, but they can just walk away. That's why Mark Zuckerberg can take a $1 salary because he's just going to have money in stock and things like that. That's why he can be a CEO or something like that of a business that he started, but once it goes public, now you're no longer liable for anything. But see, a lot of people they won't start businesses. They won't kind of read into these LLCs and all these other things. And yeah, it's not just for tax filing and whatnot, but it's for liability. Hell, LLC liability, like it's right there. Trying to figure out what you're actually liable for. Are you personally going to be responsible and held liable for a lawsuit? If you sue Amazon, you don't actually sue a person. We speak about Amazon or Walmart or whatever corporation we can think of as if it's an actual fucking person. And it's not. And that's the problem right there. We personify these businesses, these corporations, and we shouldn't because there's no person to hold responsible, to hold accountable, to be responsible for what's going on, the mistreatment. The union strike, they're striking at the ports, but who owns the ports? I haven't done my own research on it, and I don't want to take up too much time trying to figure that out either, but I already know if there's a union, they're going up against some type of corporation. They're going up against something like that. It's something that we as a society have to figure out what we're doing moving forward. Because we can sit here and be like, oh yeah, that's not good. We got to do this, we got to do that. But really, a lot of these problems only exist Because of the government. I'm always going to throw it back at the government. Because the so-called government established laws in which we the people are supposed to kind of vote on or vote representatives to help create these laws. But if you notice, all the laws are just about business. I know some of y'all know what UCC is, Universal Commercial Code. A lot of the tax laws are actually just codes, rules and regulations. They're only a law when they try to fucking throw you in a federal prison and things like that. But the government being there and making these laws and backing these laws, making these amendments to the Constitution, things that are giving rights to non-fucking human beings is an issue. Because only the human being can actually be held accountable. Only the human being can be responsible. I can't get mad at Jeff Bezos about Amazon if Jeff Bezos isn't even the CEO of Amazon anymore. If I'm not mistaken, he stepped down. That's why you'll see these CEOs step down and go off somewhere else. And it's like, oh, where'd they go? Oh, because they started Amazon, because they have the stock. They have the stock, which means they still have say-so in the company. Because they own a lot of stock, they got some power and some influence. But people don't invest in stock. Right? People don't invest in stock. A lot of people, the average American won't come across things like this. So as I say this, you will be detracted of it, or you'll have some type of detracted statement. You'll have some response to them like, no, this and that. But when you look at the core issue, it's always, I won't say it's always, but for the most part, it's going to come back to government. It's going to come back to government. So it's something to think about. So are unions the solution? No. Me personally, the solution is to get rid of government. That's the solution. And we'll figure out the rest along the way. We pretty much already operate without them anyways. In fact, they make shit worse. When you have a corporation in which someone puts money into it but doesn't do anything else, right? We all can go out and buy stock in Amazon, in Walmart, and any other corporation that's publicly traded. We can all buy stock within that corporation, and if you buy enough of it, you can be at the shareholders meeting. And if you have more than enough, really, you could be at the shareholders meeting and saying something on a shareholders call. Plenty of times I've seen notification, shareholders call for this, and that, and the different stocks I own over the years. And I just be like, ain't worried about it. I'm paying attention to the news, but I didn't have a plan on holding on to those stock a long time anyway, because I'd rather buy precious metal if I can get gold, right? Silver, platinum, things like that. Hell, if I can get some fucking oil, if I can get some lithium, you know what I mean? If I can get some shit like that, that'll be different. That's another thing too, because the people digging in the lithium, the mines and things like that, if it's a corporation behind it, you're fucked. But a lot of people just want to go to work. They want to do whatever and just make the money and stuff. They don't want to ask these questions. They just want better working conditions. They don't want to think about the bigger picture. But if we don't focus on a bigger picture, we're going to continue to get situations like this. One more thing too, the union striking is also a sign that the economy is not as good as they're telling us it is. Wages are up, people are feeding their families. Yet you're telling me all these union workers are being greedy? It doesn't matter if the wages are going up for them when the cost of living is going up. 100,000 ain't 100,000 the way it used to be. And unless you cut a lot of your expenses, or you never really had that many expenses to begin with, you're going to be struggling some type of way. Hell, you still might be struggling. We're all struggling to some degree because we're constantly have to evaluate our budget and change and stuff. And like me, disabled veteran, so I'm living off my retirement income and I take care of me and my kids. I budget, but have I tapped into my interests, my investments rather? Yes. Yes. Have I tapped them dry? Yes. Have I tried to replenish it? Yes. It's a cycle of trying to do things, but as the prices go up, what can you do? Right? So we can see both sides of the argument as far as corporations going towards automations and things like that, but also the human side of the union workers saying, hey, no, we need more money. Mainly because we're in this fucking economy in which everything's going up. And everybody wants certain living conditions and working conditions. So we can see the argument on both sides. But once again, I will say government is the issue. It doesn't matter what president you want to put in there. Doesn't matter. Changes need to be made to the Constitution. Me personally, the government needs to be dismantled anyways, and then we go into autonomous society. But I know that's going to take some time because a lot of y'all slow. A lot of y'all don't want to make your own decisions. A lot of y'all are irresponsible. A lot of people are they don't hold themselves accountable. Hell, a lot of people don't hold themselves accountable in their own personal relationships. So I know we're not necessarily right there. But I'm throwing the idea out there, autonomous society. Because we can have a lot of these things going on right now. There's just no need for government, right? But I don't want to keep going on because then I'll start going in all the other places and stuff. I want to think what will be the next topic for next episode. I feel like it's in the cusp of my head and my brain, but I don't know yet. So until next time.
Life's a gamble, I roll dice. Bet against me, I roll twice. I done beat the odds my whole life. I said I'm ready for
Talking
greatness.
shit, dang.